I'm starting to run out of ideas for thumbnails, so I hope I don't wish for injuries, but injuries and players with you know actress adjacent names gives me inspiration for thumbnails. But happy Khalif Raymond Day and Wandale and whoever else at 3K is gonna give us 6 points. How are you doing, Ori?
A GM, easy. GM, Mia Khalifa Raymond. I am ready. Let's go Bears.
Yeah, congrats on still being in place for like you know first overall pick
Listen,
via the
we
Panthers.
staved off 0-17. Let's get into it.
There you go. You can go 1-16. Are you happy before we get into it? You're happy with 1-16?
No,
No.
I'll be
Okay.
furious.
All right. All right. Let's talk about the slate. 10 gamer. We're starting to get a couple teams on bye, and we've got game kicking off in London as we speak. So it's a little bit smaller of a slate. A couple of exciting games and a couple like a lot that are just whatever. So I think we're going to get a lot of condensation around chalk that may or may not be good. I guess we'll get right into that at quarterback. Quarterback really hasn't decided a whole lot this year so far. Hurts and Mahomes seem to be getting ownership at the high end because of those cheap receivers that we're talking about, and I think that they're both in pretty good spots. Very healthy totals for both teams. Let's start there. Hurts versus Mahomes. If you're paying all the way up, who do you feel better about, both for a floor and I guess ceiling? If you have a
Yeah,
thought.
so my survivor team is still alive, and I still have the head-to-head versus Davis Maddock. I'm 2-1. Shout out me. So
Nice.
those are my only cash things. So this is not very serious stuff for me. But with that in mind, I think you have to play Mahomes. The Rams are an actual NFL football team, and I'm sure Philly can go and beat them, and that's fine. But I do think they can make it, a game and a grind, and Philly wants to run the ball, and maybe that's Swift instead of the tush push. Mahomes is playing like, we'll get into it when we talk about the game stack, but Minnesota is just not a very serious team, and I think there's a chance that Mahomes puts up a humongous game against
Yeah.
the worst pass
That
defense outside of maybe Tennessee.
Yeah, they're both traveling, but I do feel better about the Chiefs at Minnesota in that dome than I do Hurts against the Rams. Not that I'm scared of the Rams necessarily, but I think that that there's a lot of different ways that game can go. So yeah, I'm a little more into Mahomes. Obviously, it's a couple $100 more expensive, but honestly, like because I can't choose, I find myself going down to Daniel Jones, and his ownership keeps going down as people start talking themselves into guys like Dobbs or even Matt Stafford. I've seen getting a lot of steam. I would expect him to come in over 4%, but let's go all the way towards the bottom here between Daniel Jones, Dobbs, Stafford, or is there anyone else that you like at that 5,800 and below price?
So I have a couple GPP darts with Daniel Jones along with Darren Waller, just mostly because like I pray that would happen. I have zero confidence that might happen.
Yeah.
I don't feel
Yeah.
good about it unless they suddenly figure out scheme wise how to protect stuff. I don't
Yeah,
like
no, it's
that.
probably not gonna happen.
But yeah, Stafford, I'm into Stafford. I am into a little bit of tiny gross Tannehill stuff. And hey, look at me.
I
Look
had
at
Tannehill for
us.
a second.
I'm gonna play a little bit of A-Rich. I mean, if Tennessee's a fucking pass tunnel and now you're gonna get A-Rich to play them, like what if he can pass a little bit against the pass funnel? I'll play a little bit.
Yeah.
And then Zach Wilson. I mean, I
Mm.
watched my Bears shred the Broncos. I'm all about some Zach Wilson at 4,900 and spend up for some real fun stuff, fun toys.
Yeah. I'd almost rather go Dobbs. I mean, I didn't X Wilson from the pool, and I think you can definitely stack them a couple different ways. Daniel Jones, of course, like his the team total for the Giants sticks out like a sore thumb here amongst everyone else in like the mid, even working their way up to high 20s, 30 for Tua. But you never know. 47.5 total. What if the Giants get a little more than their fair share there? Yeah, it's really it's probably too wishful for cash, but he is in my cash placeholder for now. Just trying to get access to that game environment. I have faith in Dable not being a total idiot. They're gonna have to scheme some
I
stuff up.
do think they can figure it out. I've lost like
They just don't have
my
the time.
confidence of when that's going to
Yeah,
happen.
yeah.
Yeah.
The plays are just yeah. Plays are getting blown up before they develop. Running back David Montgomery, now looking at 35% and pushing close to 50% in small fields. Then you have a whole bunch of guys. I mean, it's similar. DraftKings has been pricing a lot of running backs in that 55 to 6,500 range, where you usually feel pretty comfy clicking, 2 to 4 different guys in that range. And this week, I wouldn't call Mixon a comfy click, but he projects like decently. But then you have guys like Devon Achane and Mostert. Kamara, is unexciting but fine, right? James Conner fits that mold as well. So I think Achane, like Montgomery's like a cash lock, and I think he's probably even good in GPP. But like then you have the sexy guys, Achane and Hall versus like the gross guys, and Mixon, Kamara, Connor. Do you have a lean? Let's put Montgomery aside. I'm assuming you like
Yeah.
Montgomery as much as I do.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
The
who's your
only
second
thing that's wrong
favorite?
with Montgomery today is like what could go wrong?
Yeah,
That's the only thing you
yeah,
could even say.
yeah.
My second one's DeAndre Swift.
Okay.
This is part of why I'm off of Hurts versus Mahomes. I mean, I think Hurts is a good play, but I think it's a Swift week. It was a little bit of a slower week for Swift last week, but their offensive line is just too fucking good. And he now is like firmly number one.
Yeah.
And just the usage is insane. He's getting used in the screen game. He's 6K. And to my knowledge, people aren't really playing him,
No,
in
he's going to be
context of
fairly
like
low.
20% plus guys. So yeah, Montgomery Swift for me all day long. My running back pool this week is very, very short. The only other
I'm
guys I
trying to
really even
shorten it.
have in it is Brees, Kamara, a little bit of Bijan. I'm not playing Joe Mixon. I've seen this movie before. I'm
Yeah.
not doing it. And
Yeah.
then I have sprinkles of Mostert and the King.
Yeah. I think that's like relatively reasonable. I think Bijan, like Houston has been pretty competitive, but they've given up a lot, both through the air and the run. Like they've actually been more competent on offense than defense, which is a little surprising given D'Amico Ryans. And I think that they're just like the team is just not there yet. I think at some point it will be, but they just don't have the athletes to to compete at a high level yet. So I think
Yeah.
Bijan versus Jamar Chase is an interesting conversation, but yeah, I like the Swift call. He's gotten it felt like he didn't get that many touches last week, but I think he still got 18. He got 18 the week before, and then the week before that was that Vikings game. So his workload is you know, he might even project for more touches than Devon Achane, right? It's just what's more valuable is a DeAndre Swift touch more valuable than an Achane touch. Achane went prior to Montgomery opening up with Gibbs out. Achane was going to be 30, 35, 40%. I was hoping that I was hoping that would, continue to be the case and I could fade Achane at 20%. I feel okay with Achane, but honestly, I'm not super excited about um, showing up with him in cash. I've seen like Blender was talking about like, fading him in cash. A lot of people, a lot of, sharp people on Twitter are like already pre-joking about like, oh, you're going to play the guy, like the backup running back who's going to get 12 touches at 6K and chalk.
Yeah,
So
it's a
yeah,
very difficult situation because he has a lot of talent and McGoat is the McGoat, but usage is usage. And like,
yeah.
it's just really hard
He
for,
literally touched the ball 11 times last week and got 30 points.
yeah, yeah. That's a
He was
very
playing the
hard
Giants.
thing to bet on. Yeah.
Yeah. Is Javante going to play? So Javante's projected out by ETR, who I'm using for these projections, but he practiced in full on Friday. So it sounds like he's a true game time decision. Truthfully, like I have just absolutely no interest in the Denver running game, even though they're projected for 23 points and it's a price pivot. I just don't think the upside is there with two backs, let alone potential for three. So
That's where I landed. And I want to this is probably a good time because I don't think we're going to talk too much Broncos stuff. But
yeah,
So the Hackett v. Peyton wars from the offseason have kind of gone under the radar just because of the dumpster fire that is both
Yeah.
teams and all that
Oh
kind of
yeah.
stuff. But
Oh, I forgot that revenge
so
game.
that's this week. And
Revenge game for Xavier
originally
Hackett.
I was thinking of Jaleel McLaughlin, but
Hmm.
I think the Jets defense is going to be really up for this game. I mean,
Yeah.
they played pretty well last. I think they have to start to feel a little bit of hope. And when they watch the
I agree.
tape of Denver Bears, and you don't want to play a Denver running back. I don't like the script there. I like the Jets. I like Hackett revenge. I think A-Rod's going to help Hackett not be a
Yeah.
dumbass.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think Peyton comes out on the losing end of this one.
Yeah. Do you like, so just on the other side of that, do you like Brees Hall in like cash? He's very cheap relative to his upside, but can you really show up? I've seen people talking about playing A-Chain and Brees Hall, and you're going to show up and like your two running backs are combined for like fewer touches than Montgomery probably gets. But it's fun guys to click.
I do not think you can show up in cash with Brees, but
Yeah, I probably
I'm no
wouldn't.
cash expert. I
Yeah.
think it's a fun click. I think it's a fun click. It's
Yeah.
not a click that I have confidence in.
Yeah. And then just real quick on Derrick Henry, close your eyes and click him at 10%, but especially like, the King is back. They're road favorites here. Indianapolis is a very fantasy friendly environment, both through the air and on the ground. So yeah, I'm all over Henry.
Yeah, if you
And
click A-Rich and then you click Derrick Henry and then you X the game out, you get so different than other people. It's crazy and it's kind of fun.
yeah, so I wouldn't say don't play Judy. We'll talk about it. He might not come up organically in the receiver conversation, but I think Judy's a better. He's an uncomfortable click. But he's the only guy that I'm excited about potentially on Denver. Just given A, I think he's probably their best receiver, and B, he's going to see less of Sauce Gardner than Cortland Sutton is. So if I'm playing Zach Wilson teams, I will be playing Judy on a chunk of those. But
I gotta wonder if they
receiver,
want to move him too. Maybe they feature him
yeah, if they're
on the market.
if they're still on the market, yeah, they're Randy Gregory out. I think Frank Clark they're starting to shop. But anyway, cheap receivers, there's a bunch. Wandale was going to be super chalky, but then Khalif Raymond and Josh Reynolds opened up. People are excited about Tyler Boyd's 9 points that he's going to score. Hollywood Brown has like sneakily been very consistent this year without having like a giga ceiling. Like he's gotten 17, like he's gotten 17.4, 17.1, 16.6 in each of the last 3 weeks. So, there's guys people are comfortable with cheap and then expensive. You're going to have to decide between Tyreek versus Jefferson, or do you just, go down for Chase? Let's start at the bottom and then the top. If you could pick who are your favorite two between, let's say, Reynolds, Wandell, Raymond, and Boyd?
In those ones, my favorite is Boyd.
Okay.
I guess I'll kind of go more
He's
general,
lowest
big
owned.
picture on this. I think these guys are all basically the same guy in the same play. So I think you really just want to pick the lower owned guys. Like,
Yeah.
I don't think there's anything different between Tyler Boyd and Khalif Raymond and Wandale. And, so I find myself going to Boyd and going to Alan Lazard. I mean, at 3,900, Denver's defense, he's not going to draw Surtain. We know who's getting Surtain.
Yeah.
I would
Yeah.
rather just avoid the ownership,
Yeah.
and go to guys who are basically the same play.
Yeah. I think
Robert Woods,
yeah,
I mean,
Robert
these
Woods
are
is
the
not
same
awful.
play.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't feel
Hard
good.
to
I
tell
don't like
yourself
it.
on upside there.
No.
Yeah, I mean, I like Wandale in those game environments, but I'm not super excited about Wandale's upside as a one-off at chalk. Khalif Raymond and Josh Reynolds, I think they're both a tier above as far as their team is projected to score a lot more points than the Giants, and B, like they're going in and potentially replacing a lot of targets from Amon-Ra and Gibbs. So, and we've seen a Josh Reynolds ceiling, and Khalif Raymond has like a pretty high ADOT. Both like rotate in the slot and outside. I'm not super worried about Jameson Williams. I hope people are like excited about Jameson Williams so we can get a little bit less ownership. But yeah, Josh
My
Reynolds is not high enough owned from what I'm seeing.
Yeah, my biggest concern with the Lions is just like I'm just concerned about changing their playbook, like changing yeah, I mean they already want to use Monty a lot, but I don't know. I mean, not having ARSB in there and just not having Gibbs and all this stuff, like I don't know. I do think one of those guys can have a chance to eat, but I definitely do not like Goff to like just cook with these lesser guys.
Yeah. Of the high price, Tyreek Jefferson, I guess Chase, is meaningfully cheaper. But if you were starting the lineup and you're like, I'm going to play one expensive receiver between these three, who's it going to be?
For me, it's Tyreek.
Yeah.
I'm a large field GPP guy, and I think Tyreek's ceiling is above those other two guys.
Yeah.
Um, I
Yeah, I
just
agree.
think it is.
Yeah, and I think like it's worth noting if T Higgins is indeed out, like obviously Chase has been a super big target hog. But again, like I don't think anyone can keep up with Tyreek's upside. I know Justin Jefferson at home in 52 and a half total is pretty good, and I think maybe he ends up getting squeezed. But I think Chase, as the highest owned of the bunch. Um, I'm not super excited to play, super chalk Jamar
Yeah,
Chase. I'm fine with eating Tyreek chalk. And then, the mid range, because I wouldn't say stars and scrubs because I don't think the scrubs are that scrubby, but just the way that people talk about it. This whole mid range is just like wide open. And I think, it's worth noting, in cash, if you show up with Wandale and Cliff Raymond, I think that's perfectly fine, if not like expected. But in GPP, and they both score, let's say 12 points, like you're going to be on pace to cash if they score 12. But if you're playing a big GPP and you have Wandale and Khalif Raymond and they get 12 points each, you're behind. So, and part of the reason for that is like this mid range. I don't know who it's going to be, but like Garrett Wilson, DeAndre Hopkins, Pickens, like guys like Nico Collins, like guys like that pop up for 30 all the time. You know,
yeah,
so
yeah.
someone is going to win a big GPP getting 30 points out of, you know, mid-range receivers while you're showing up with 12, eating two roster spots. Do you
Yeah.
have a favorite go-to, let's say, cheaper than 6K, but not, above Boyd, but cheaper than 6K?
That parameter for me is probably Garrett Wilson and Tutu. I think
You
Tutu's
too.
out. Tutu's narrative today for GPP fun stuff is really, really fun. I mean, Cooper Kupp is back. So obviously the entire world is waiting to find out what is Cooper Kupp and Puka's role together on the field as both the underneath Stafford's favorite target role,
Yeah.
so now it's
Yeah.
like the standoff. And a guy that can benefit from that is Tutu can just get forgotten, not just by the
He
field,
for
but
sure will
by the
be
fucking
forgotten.
defense,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, you'll
And
get him
I'm no
more.
short king champ here, but it could be a short king week. We've
Yeah.
seen it before. And I think
Yeah.
it's fun. Nobody's going to show up with Tutu. I mean, my
No,
God,
no.
I don't
I'm not
even
going to
see
start
the
with 2-2,
ownership,
but
but
if things go really wrong, I might pivot over there. But yeah, I really like the
yeah.
Garrett Wilson, DeAndre Hopkins range as well. We'll talk about those games. And then at tight end, Laporta is, going up. Tutu's birthday was yesterday. Whew.
All right. Hang on. Let me take a note.
Sam Laporta at
Thank you.
5K.
Thanks, Maddie.
Who would have thought people are like showing up to play Sam Laporta chalk at 5K, but I think it's, he's actually pretty reasonably good play. Travis Kelce, obviously, all the way up at the top. And then you have, a bunch of dumpster dives between like Zach Ertz, who again, like he always projects fine and then he never does anything. And like, I don't know, his ownership is never as high as projected. Let's start do you want to start in the dumpster and tell me, Zach Ertz and cheaper, like anyone that you feel good about, like high confidence. So like, I don't know if you want to say cash, but like someone you're confident in, or you just like swinging for upside, or are you avoiding the dumpster completely?
No, I mean, there's no doubt I'm playing a lot of Kelsey this week, and there's no doubt that in my hand builds, I'm not clicking Sam Laporta. I do think Sam Laporta is in a great spot and it's a great play. I'm not going to pay 5K for a receiver who's a tight end, a rookie tight end who, is in a game where they have a running back that I expect to touch the ball 40 times. I'm not paying 5K for that. He can beat me, and I recognize he definitely can bury me, but I'm just not going
Yeah.
to play that. I would rather show up with so John O. Smith is okay for me. I'm okay. I don't love it.
Yeah.
Um, Kylan Granson is totally okay for me. Tyler Conklin. I like Tyler
Yeah.
Conklin. I like him a lot. I'm getting a bunch of him. We'll get into the reasons why. Irv Smith, I don't know about his health and all that kind of stuff, but Arizona tight end funnel, blah blah blah. If the lineup makes sense, Irv Smith's fine for me.
Yeah. Irv's been
Um,
practicing full all week. He has no injury designation.
yeah. The problem is, yeah, he probably absolutely stinks, but in lineups that make sense, I'll play a little Irv Smith.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
yeah,
It's hard to.
Hawkinson and Laporta, I can't click those guys. If they showed up in my
Oh, I
Sims, they
like
showed up,
Hawkinson a lot.
but I can't
Yeah.
click them.
Yeah. They're really hard to hand click, but Hawkinson, especially, I think, is a really good play here. Actually, I'm getting a lot of Hawkinson, Kelsey together on teams.
I saw
And I
that on
think
my
that's just
Sims. Yeah,
like, Hawkinson is, 2,900 less than Justin Jefferson. So I don't know if you would call that leverage off his teammate, but yeah, showing up with the two tight ends there. And I think Hawkinson's like projection is like fairly reasonable. In we've seen, ceiling games before. Mark Andrews is going to be very low owned. Darren Waller is going to be very low owned. I'm really only going to Waller on Daniel Jones teams. But yeah, there's a
same.
lot like tight end is pretty gross always. And then, the guys that like people feel comfortable with Jonnu Smith, man. I don't know. I understand that he's cheap, but like, what is the ceiling for Jonnu Smith? So I don't know if I can sell
Yeah,
myself that like Chig has some kind of ceiling, in what I think is a pretty easy matchup. I think Conklin. I don't know that Conklin has a ceiling necessarily. So yeah, I am finding myself paying up a little bit more or just correlating at tight end because I'm not worried. Like,
yeah,
I don't want to show up with just like a really great correlated leverage, like a good lineup, and it's like Johnny Smith, and it's like, what am I getting from John? Like
yeah.
Johnny's 4 points or 6 points or 9 points, like whatever.
Yeah, I get that thinking, but the flip side of that coin is, when you play John Smith in a lineup that makes sense, you're saving money, and you obviously need it to be one of those weeks where 195 points takes down your tourney, and
Yeah,
you use that money to smash. You know what I mean?
yeah.
You're
There's a chance.
never just getting a 25-point Johnu. Like
No, no, no.
you're never getting that. You're just
Yeah,
hoping to win a different way that week.
I will link. I think it's Gary Hartman writes the leverage
See on this.
article. Writes the leverage article for ETR. He did a really good job there. If you don't have access, I'm not gonna necessarily give away the goods, but he did a real good deep dive into tight ends and like what historically wins, et cetera, et cetera. So I would recommend checking that out. But basically, that really got me to think about like, yeah, I'm fine correlating my tight ends. I'm fine paying up for guys that that I think have a ceiling. I really don't know that I like clicking the 2,900 guy and hoping for 6 points because, like, especially if he's chalky, like, just give me a chance at a guy I think can get 15. And, like, that list is not very long.
Yeah, I
So,
get
yeah.
it.
Do we want to talk about defense? Like the Titans, I think you got to show up with the Titans probably in cash. And then I think it's very spread out. Like in my MME sets, I just like unclick the Giants and I'm just letting everyone else roll to, maybe 5 to 15% of like everyone else. I don't have any super strong leans. The Patriots here against like a banged up Carr, and you hope that Carr leaves and then Jameis comes in and throws a couple of gift punts. But yeah, I don't know. Do you have any strong takes on defense?
Uh, I have to mention one defense because nobody's gonna play them, and maybe I'm an idiot. I don't know. I'm trying to find the price because they're not on your damn screen. Where is it?
No, it's gotta be here.
3,100, 3,300. Yeah. Dude, the Chiefs. Like if I
Mm,
could get a
yeah,
pick'em line
yeah,
with the Chiefs DST over 0.5 touchdowns, I'm fucking hitting the over this week.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
I never say that we can't predict defense scoring, but Kirk Cousins stinks. Minnesota is a basement team like the Bears is. Frank Clark is back. I'm playing a lot of Kansas City defense, and that is part of why I'm not getting too much Hawkinson Jefferson. I think Kansas City's in a great price and a great spot. Again, it's defense. Obviously, you're flipping coin. You're
Yeah.
flipping coins, and but yeah, fun defense. But we
So
can move on.
Frankie, so this is something. So let's talk about this very, very quickly because the Titans, I don't think the Titans are in like a great spot. Granted, like I think AR can eventually be mistake prone, and he's put the ball on the ground a couple of times already. So it makes sense why the Titans are chalk. I don't think it's a super high upside play because I don't think that the Colts drop back to pass so many times. But anyway, like the Titans, I think are a fine bet for 5 to 9 points, and makes sense why you play them in cash. I'm going to be under in GPPs, and then there's like some lineups where the 2200 versus 2400 really matters, and it's like you're giving up 3 points projected to go to the Panthers, but like the Lions will drop back to pass. They'll likely win. I don't know that Amon-Ra and Gibbs out really matters for like how great the offense is, but maybe it does. Like can you really replace Amon-Ra St. Brown with Khalif Raymond? Like I don't know. So I think
Can I
like
can
at
I
super
quickly
flex
say good night to the Tank Shitsby goal line roll? Good night.
again, they gave him goal line.
No, good night. This is the ETN touchdown. He had the whole
No,
he
I'm
had the
saying
whole
Zay
red
Jones.
zone.
Oh, ETN came in for the 2 point.
Oh,
Did we
was that
talk
2 point?
Burrow?
Okay.
We didn't specifically talk Burrow. I guess like we'll get into the games, even though it's a 4 o'clock game. But I got to take them at their word that he's healthy. If they were like actually healthy, the Bengals would predicted for more than 24 points against the Cardinals. So I think Vegas doesn't fully trust their health. I'm not Xing Burrow, but I'm really not super excited. But at 6,200, this is one of those I can talk myself like in or out of. It's not something that I'm organically excited about, especially at chalk. I don't know how true this is, but thanks anyway. Houston at Atlanta, 42 total, which is actually not that bad. I thought like maybe there's room for this one to be higher. It's in the dome. Bijan's going to get a little bit of ownership here, maybe some Tank Dell, but otherwise, not too many people. And I guess Jonnu Smith. So, anything? Are you excited about this game or just like Bijan and
I'm
Tank Dell type stuff?
I'm not excited about this game per se, but I do have this game marked down as one of the games that could go beyond its total because we're talking about teams that, they're not very good. They don't play great defense. And, if Atlanta, just short up a couple of things to be, slightly, competent, like I could easily see this game turning into, 28 to 27, 30 to, like
It's all
getting
Houston's
to
got
a
to drive
50-point total. I don't know if that results in you needing to have this game, but because of that, I'm the guys I like most in this game are Tank Dell and Bijan. And then I find myself clicking Janu just a little bit in that, what if he gets a touchdown, one of them? And I'm okay with Woods and Collins and stuff in lineups that make sense as mini stacks. I'm okay with it. And I think in the Sims, I did get a little bit of Stroud. I
I
do
get
like
Stroud
Stroud
too.
overs in terms of pass yards. I think his line's like 230 or 240. I like it. It's gross, but I do think this game, could be something.
Yeah. So Bijan, man, Bijan, like we're still waiting for him to get. Well, he got 20 touches week 2, but only 19 last week, 14 the week prior. This is a good spot, man. Like the Texans have given it up. Obviously not last week against they were playing the Steelers or whatever, but the Texans give it up both through the air and the run. I really think at some point Bijan is going to have that 30-point week and be like, this is why, he's a first round pick. And
Yeah.
I think, we've been excited about this Houston matchup for a while. I think like this is a good spot for it. Bijan versus Jamar Chase is a conversation that people are not really like. Everyone is kind of clicking Chase, and he's projected for a point more, but it's reasonable. I don't think it's unreasonable to say like Bijan's floor or like median is like just as high, if not maybe even higher than Jamar Chase's. I'm a little bit on an island there. So yeah, I do like Bijan. At some point, I think we'll see ceiling. I wouldn't fault you for playing Kyle Pitts at 3% owned, even though he seems like he's like legitimately hurt. And yeah, I do like the
Obligatory
Stroud
Kyle
side.
shits mention.
Yeah, and I like the Stroud side too. Bob Woods is pretty low owned, but I'd rather just play it via Tank and Nico. Bring back with Bijan type thing.
Yeah.
Carolina, Detroit, 44 total, fifth on the slate. Detroit carrying obviously most of that. Montgomery, like, man, you're going to have Montgomery 35, Laporta 25, Khalif Raymond over 20, Josh Reynolds pushing 20. Let's start with that. Are you hand building any teams without Lions? Like, I feel like a line is like the first man in on like every roster that I build.
Yeah, I mean, because I have Montgomery basic lock button, I kind of am. But I'm pretty scared about it. I guess I'm more concerned. Is anyone gonna like? Can we possibly be afraid of Thielen? Like, he's gonna have no time to throw, and Thielen's always gonna be 2 yards away from him and ready to catch a football. Like,
yeah,
but 5,100 is a tall order for Thielen, who's probably not going to get in the end zone against Detroit. I'm slightly concerned about Thielen, but it is what it is.
I don't think that Thielen could put the game out of reach.
Yeah.
Like in Seattle.
Yeah, he can't
35 points.
You're right.
I think Thielen can get, he's projected for 13. I think he can get, 15, a reasonable amount of time, 17. Like, but if Thielen gets 20, I think A, that would be like a lot, and B, you could survive that.
I just had a galaxy brain thought.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not going to play it. What if
Aiden
Aiden Hutchinson eats Bryce Young? Like, literally eats him, and he doesn't exist anymore. And then it's Dalton. And then, I wouldn't play Dalton, but I'm saying then Thielen could cook. All right, let's not go there.
That's a thin parlay.
Let's let that go.
So, all right, yeah, Reynolds. I really like Reynolds actually is projecting like point per dollar better than Khalif Raymond, but because people got excited about Khalif Raymond first and he's cheaper, I think he's obviously going to end up, higher owned as this predicts. So I'm more in on Reynolds. Reynolds plays both inside and outside, and we've seen his ceiling. He has like a ceiling in two ways, where he had, I don't know if I would call him a target hog, but like his path is 6 to 8 targets, I think is good. And he also gets used in like the intermediate. And he's used in the end zone. He scored a couple of touchdowns already in a game this year. So I'm much more into the idea of a ceiling with Josh Reynolds. I think Khalif Raymond, he's
I wish I knew Josh Reynolds' actual health. Like, because that's one concern I do have, is that he's been on the injury report all week. We know he's playing, right? But the chance to aggravate and blah blah blah, like, I don't
know. Yeah. Could be. The blurb I'm reading is he's questionable with a groin, and he's already played through this same groin injury multiple times this year. Granted, I think he did miss week 3 with it, I believe, but he came back and played pretty full complement last week, so I'm not overly worried there.
And then that'll lead me to one more anecdote. Do you remember the Montgomery 35% game last year? And then Khalil Herbert came in and ended up scoring like 25 points at 4,800 or something.
Yeah.
And then people actually tried to say that you could play him. I say still no. You can't play Craig Reynolds. You can't play for that.
Come on.
You can't.
Yeah. No, you can't do that. And then one last thing. Everyone is playing Jared Goff's guys at 20% owned, and he's going to be 3%. So I've kept him in the pool. It's just the only thing is like, what does Goff need to do? Like, can you just play all these guys and then like pick the quarterback who's going to score more points than Goff? I think probably.
Yeah.
Um,
At the end of the day, what does 400 get you? Because that's what I feel like his ceiling is.
yeah.
I don't know.
Um, yeah. So Titans Colts 43 total is actually not that bad. In the dome here as well. Everyone here is going to be pretty low owned, and it's not that bad of a game. I don't think like 43 is really not that bad. Jonathan Taylor obviously returns. I don't think you can play him, given that he's going to be limited and it's a tough matchup. So I don't think that the upside is there. But yeah, anything you like here besides sprinkling Derrick Henry?
Yeah, I mean, what you just said to me is why I want to play a little bit of A-Rich passing. Like, I like an A-Rich skinny with Derrick Henry coming back, or it's shit any of these bums. I don't care. Mainly because Jonathan Taylor's back, because he draws attention. He draws like game planning. He draws stuff. And if A-Rich can not shit his pants and not turn into a pumpkin and can just get the ball to guys that should be open against a bad Tennessee secondary, I do like their coach and I like the way he does stuff.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, no,
if he
the
looks at
sharper
the
is
tape, he can expose something. And if A-Rich is competent, I'm happy showing up with an A-Rich skinny with a Titan coming back.
who's your go-to partner? Are you just paying up for Pittman, or are you going down to Josh Downs?
No, honestly, it's mostly Granson. Like,
Yeah, I like that
because
actually.
I think he's the guy near the end zone. He's the guy
We
near the,
got
you know,
we got screwed. I mean, me. I had all of my best teams were AR with Puka and Kyron, and then Colin Granson, and then and then Anthony Richardson threw 2 touchdowns to 2 different tight ends that were not Colin Granson. But anyway, this is not
yeah.
therapy. Actually, it is. But anyway, I really like DeAndre Hopkins. So I think I like Henry, and I will be playing a lot of Henry. But I also think in the games where Henry doesn't giga smash it, like I think the Titans are going to score points against this Colts defense, and I think that this game is going to be higher scoring. Like I think it's relatively safe to not be super low scoring, and I think it has a path to some scores. So I like Hopkins. The Colts have already given up, some meaningful pass games. And then I like your Granson call with AR. So yeah, I like this game. I don't like Pittman's price though. So I kind of like,
Yeah. I think I have one, but I agree. It's a little too much.
Yep. The Giants are at Miami, 47.5 total. I forgot if someone, said it here or where I saw it, where, there's a little sloppy field potential in Miami where, there's a game there yesterday, in rain, whatever. I don't know if we need to like, I think a sloppy field, if anything, is good, not bad. I kind of hope the narrative gets out there, and then, all you're going to see is Tyreek Hill being the fastest man on earth, making a juke and burying, Dory Jackson or whoever else is going to try and cover him. But I digress. Talk to me about this game.
Yeah. So this game is the first time I'll mention one of my strategies for the week, and this applies to a few different games. What if you play a quarterback with his receiver with his defense?
Yeah.
I think that this game and the Kansas City game and one other game I can't see are situations where you might be able to do that and nobody's going to do that.
Sure.
Because it's like breaking the rules. Like it's breaking the rules, but you can definitely do that. Like I'm going to play a bunch of Tua this week. Tyreek is definitely my favorite target to go with him, but I don't mind going to Waddle in some lineups. I don't mind stacking all this Miami side. And I also don't mind not bringing back Giants, though I do think the field is wising up to the no bring back stuff just a little bit. So, I'm good with bringing back a Giant or not bringing back a Giant, but I definitely do want to play some Miami with their defense because I think the foot is going to be on the gas this week, no matter what. Like until it's a 50-point lead, which I don't think is going to happen. I think the Giants are going to keep it in reason within 3 touchdowns. You know what I mean? and they're
It's
not going to take their foot off the gas.
no, that I don't think they have reason to. I mean, I don't know if I would say that they looked bad against Buffalo, but the final score was 48-20. So, and
Yeah,
Tyreek only touched the ball 5 or 6 times in that game. Part of that is because they took their foot off the gas completely towards the end there. And yeah, Waddle, or we're still waiting for the first Waddle breakout game of the year, and at 3%, it's a good spot. Like, there's not going to be much resistance here. I think Tua is fine at 10%. I don't even think it'll be that high. If I had to bet, I
yeah,
would take the under there. Wandale feels like he comes preloaded, especially on Miami teams where you have the expensive guys. So, like, could you game theory talk yourself into playing Jalen Hyatt at 3,600, who doesn't even show up here? I don't think the Giants are going to have enough time in the pocket to get the ball to Jalen Hyatt. But yeah, having said that, Daniel
but
Jones is
it's a great leverage pivot. I like that.
yeah, yeah,
I like that a lot. I'm going to build
yeah,
that actually.
yeah, yeah. I'll show up
Because
with
it
like
just
one.
takes one. It just takes one
Yeah,
great schemed play, and for Hyatt to run past a guy, which can definitely happen. He's
yeah,
very fast, and their guys got their asses beat by guys last week.
yeah.
You know,
And I think I wouldn't fault you if you said give me minimum one A-Chain or Mostert. For me. It's so hard to see like what's the way that one of these guys doesn't go for 20 is like what they both get like 18 or something. Like, I don't know. I think one of them is going to get 20 plus, possibly even 30 plus. Giants defense
yeah.
is just so bad. Like, they cannot freaking tackle. So yeah, and I like Daniel Jones, and I think Darren Waller is just that guy where he's been miserably bad and balls that have hit him in the hands and stuff. But like,
Yeah.
last week, and like, the Giants have had more than their fair share of national TV games, and that's not going to stop for whatever reason. So it's like gotten a lot of heat. Darren Waller's having a chip and whatever. But like, do you think Darren? So one big narrative that I've seen this year play out is the alpha wide receivers, whenever they have like a pouty game, and
Yeah.
the next week, like, it's always fucking schemed
Yeah.
targets and touches, and like they always go off. AJ Brown's a good example of that. I think Jamar Chase was a good example of that. Jamar Chase might be another example of that for the second time. Dallas Goedert was to some degree an example of that, where he got 0 targets, and then the next week they started the game off with the screen to him. Do you think Darren Waller is like good enough? Because like, it's been very publicly like noted how he only got 3 targets last week. So maybe I'm just trying to sell myself on
The
that.
one thing I'll say about Darren Waller stuff is that there is a difference between targeting a guy when the game's out of reach and targeting a guy when the fucking game is still a game. You know what I mean? Like two
Well,
of
this
his
game's not
targets
going to be
last
a game
week
for him.
were two of his targets last week were the game's out of reach. The game's over. Like, you know what I mean? So guys mentally is different. You know what I mean? You need to get Darren Waller going in the first quarter. You know what I mean? You need to
Yeah,
scheme
yeah,
touches to your guys.
yeah.
And
I
there
think
is
they
a
have
chance
to.
of that happening. You're right.
Yeah, but again, at 5,400, he's going to need 15 plus, which means he's going to have to probably score.
Yeah.
Unless he goes like 7 for 80 or something. Anyway,
It's a
I
great
digress.
leverage play.
I'm sure
Yeah.
we'll come back to that. Spoiler alert. A little catch me up game here. Saints at New England. Kamara is chalk. That's about it. Are you just playing defenses here? Are you playing Kamara?
Defenses are fine. I do have some Kamara. I was higher on Kamara before. But yeah, it's just Kamara fits Derek Carr's injury and his
Yeah.
incompetence very, very, very well. So there's a chance again for 10 targets behind the line of scrimmage for 10 yards. But yeah, it's
14.
gross. I also want to say the weather is not great. One note that is interesting that I saw in the Blitz is that this is the fastest game on the slate in terms of these
Isn't the
teams
game will be over
play
the fastest?
fast. Yeah, exactly. It could be that. But that was a surprising note to me. I
Yeah, I've
guess
not
both
seen
teams
that.
are calling their plays, getting to the line of scrimmage, and running pretty fast. But yeah, I mean, Devontae Parker, wide receiver one, you mentioned at 3,800. Fine. In my simple, fine. If he comes up once, but I'm not
The Sims
looking to
like
click
Devontae
any of these
Parker.
names when I build a team.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm fully off this game except for defense. I think like Kamara keeps wanting to pop up, but I just can't in good faith click him at
Yeah.
20%. He's gonna have to score multiple times, I think, to get like he legitimately caught 13 passes last week and only scored 21 points.
I need to know
Now you
that
might tell
Derek
me he ran
Carr
bad, but
I need to know that Derek Carr can physically throw more than 5 yards and that the Saints are interested in throwing more than 5 yards before I can
yeah,
get involved here. That's
yeah.
just where I'm at.
Olave 6,900. I mean, Ramondre is very low owned, but he's like kind of hurt, and I don't think this is a good game.
Yeah.
I think Saints defense is pretty good. Anyway, Baltimore at Pittsburgh, 38 total is the lowest on the slate. Everyone here is going to be supremely low owned. The Ravens are healthy ish. Um, we'll see how long that lasts, which kind of stinks because I would have liked to play Zay Flowers. I might still play a little bit of Zay. Otherwise, I have no interest. What about you?
Yeah, this is the other potential sloppy field game that
I gotta look at it.
division, ugly
Yeah.
defense stuff. I'm not interested. I can't click anything here except I do think Gus Edwards, if you put your morals aside, is okay. Click at 5K to save money, but
What's the
eh,
ceiling? I don't think there's a
eh,
ceiling against Pittsburgh.
eh. This is all gross, and I know the whole 1% Lamar thing, but this ain't that week. Not for me.
I will have at least one Lamar, but I don't know if I'm going to do it with Zay or Mark Andrews like at the same price. Um, does getting the low owned tight end help, or I think Zay Flowers has like a six ceiling. Um, Patrick Peterson obviously, called him. I think he gave him like a front handed compliment or backhanded compliment, like one of those where he said like a lot of nice things and then he called them like small or something. So we'll see, but yeah, it's more of
Love
just like a
that.
fun thing. I don't think it's a good play on paper. Cincinnati, Arizona, 45 total, pretty healthy. The Bengals 3-point favorites on the road. Um, Joe Burrow, I think, is off the injury report. Do you believe that? I don't know. I think T Higgins confirmed out. I think he is.
He is.
So
He is.
so
Yeah,
yeah,
let's start there. Joe Burrow's off the injury report. I just personally, I'm just going to call bullshit. I
yeah,
think that they are tired of hearing that narrative in the media and all that angle in the storyline, and they just kind of want it to go away because they know that he's playing.
yeah,
So they just decided to take him off the injury report. My
yeah.
eyes tell me that he's either injured or he's now bad, and I'm not willing to say he's now bad. So
No, no, he's
something's
definitely not
wrong
right yet.
there,
Yeah,
and I don't think it's right yet.
yeah,
I think it could get right. I don't think this week is that week.
yep,
Arizona has shown that they will drag any team, no matter how fucking good they are, into the mud and will fight them. And I don't know that that's the week that Joe Burrow gets right. I don't like it. I don't.
yeah.
That's
Cardinals have
why I'm not
been
playing much
competitive.
chase.
Cardinals have been competitive, but don't forget that this is the team that had like a 3 touchdown lead on Daniel Jones and then gave it all up. Um, so I think Burrow is very capable of
Yeah,
that. Josh Dobbs has been like surprisingly like decent at worst, if not like almost good. Um, he's got over 40 yards rushing each of the last 3 weeks. So he actually has had like some kind of floor to go with the teeniest bit of ceiling. So at 5,200, I think he's like interesting. We talk a little bit about Hollywood Brown. I think he's one of those mid-range guys that can pop for 25 plus points. Michael Wilson, at zone role, because he's obviously bigger than Hollywood, and Zach Ertz is not very exciting guy. So yeah, I like the Cardinal side, and I do like Tyler Boyd now that he's going to be less owned because of the line stuff opened up. Yeah, and we're kind of buried the lead. Didn't really talk much about Jamar Chase. I think Jamar Chase is probably going to be in a lot of cash lineups. I currently don't have him in, and I'm a little scared about that.
who did you just say? Jamar Chase?
Yeah, Jamar Chase.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So I don't know.
Yeah, I like some minis in this game. Yeah, I can't play the Burrow stack stuff, and Dobbs
Yeah.
stuff. I allowed it in the Sims because it's fun at that price. And man, I tell you what, he's an easy guy to root for, and the Cardinals are an easy team to root for. Like they
Yeah.
clearly, just the narrative that you're tanking and your organization doesn't have integrity, and then to come out and do what they've been doing has been a lot of fun to me. And I like that Jonathan Gannon to me is like way up at the top
I mean,
of like guys
they were
that
getting
know what the
clowned.
fuck they're doing.
Yeah, they were getting clowned in the offseason, but yeah,
Yeah.
they've been surprisingly competitive. Granted, they're 1-3.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah. They're
but
not getting
beat
the
the
end
Cowboys. But
result,
yeah,
but yeah.
Eagles are at the Rams, 50.5 total. Really not a lot of talk about this game relative to how possibly, if not probably, good the game is going to be, which actually saying it out loud, this is why I like doing the show. Is like when you like take a step back and it's like this game has a lot of good players, has one good team, one team with a good offensive coach, and no one is going there because there's uncertainty around like who the ball goes to. Like it feels like a good spot to lean in. What do you think?
Yeah, no, definitely. I'm just grabbing minis. I like almost any mini in this game. I mean, obviously I have a big Swift take, so there's a lot of that, but I do like Stafford singles. I like Stafford doubles. I like minis where you just pick a guy. I have not found myself able to click Kyron. Just 6,700 against the defense like this and stuff is just like maybe it's finally not Kyron week. But everything else I think is absolutely on the table. More so for me, the minis. The main
Yeah,
reason that people are not playing this game is just this is a very expensive game.
it is. It is.
Um, and people are like they want to spend their money on other stuff, and you know, Nez,
Yeah, I
oh
think
boy, oh boy,
it's just a matter of like so we always talk about like what's Hurt's ceiling if he's not passing in the fourth quarter. And we saw last week, Washington they were at home against Washington and that game went to overtime. It was like surprisingly competitive. Like they played a competitive game relatively against the Vikings. The game against the Patriots was a close game too. Like I mean, the Eagles obviously are 4-0. They're a very, very good team. Don't get me wrong. But like this defense is more vulnerable than it's been, last year and relative to their reputation, particularly in the secondary. It's still very banged up. So like
yeah.
on the road,
Mc-
not that it's a good fan stadium environment for the Rams, but it's still like having to travel. Like I think that secondary, there's going to be points in this game. Let me put it that way. I
yeah,
think there's going to be
for
points.
sure. McVay has his fastball back. That's the other thing. I
Yeah,
feel like
yeah.
he's high on the radar gun these days. And yeah, my favorite mini in this game is Swift across from Tutu or across from Cup.
Yeah,
Nobody can click Cup in this spot, and
I'm
there is a world where you flip the cards over and Cup gets 15 targets.
yeah. I'll give you the one narrative here is that Cooper Cup is coming back and he has a podcast now with Matt Stafford that they announced yesterday. Is it a
Mm-hmm.
coincidence that they're launching that the week that they play Jason Kelsey, who has a very famous podcast? I don't know.
Could be. Could be.
So yeah, I like the Cooper Cup call. I think Puka is still fine too. Like he's going to be like everybody on the Rams is going to be low owned because A, they're expensive and B, like there's a lot of them.
Yeah.
I'm not into Tower Higbee at all. I think like his role, just like how many guys, and this is like, a recycled narrative, but I think it's a good one. Like they already have Puka and Cooper Cup that operate underneath. Like how or why would you have Tower Higbee there, like
Yeah.
drawing targets?
The Sims wanted some. I left it alone, but I can't
Yeah,
click
yeah,
Tyler
yeah,
Higbee. I can't
yeah.
click it.
I agree. And then I like the Swift call. He's going to be lowish owned relative to the other 6K running backs, and I think his ceiling is just as
Yeah.
high. I've seen some talk around, Devontae Smith is leverage off of AJ Brown. I don't think AJ Brown is owned near enough. So I like, both AJ Brown, not on the same teams as Smith, but I like them both individually. And Goddard,
Yeah.
once again, like we talk about like Goddard many, many times, he's just going to have like 5 freaking points. And it's like, why does Alice Goddard exist? But I think in a game here where they might have elevated opportunities, and at 4,200, he's got a much bigger ceiling than all those 3K guys. It might only hit 2, 3, 4 times a year,
Yeah.
but I think this is a good spot against, a Rams team
Yeah.
that is not very great
I
in
completely
the middle
agree.
of the field.
I do not have Goddard this week purely because I'm not playing Hurts.
Oh, I'm
I
all over
personally
Hurts.
would only play Goddard with Hurts.
Yeah. Yeah. Jets at the Broncos, 43.5 total is like sneakily pretty decent. I feel like I've said, something similar to that
Yeah.
a couple of times, but yeah, Brees Hall is going to be owned a little bit. Not a whole much else here. Garrett Wilson, people starting to feel a little bit better about Zach Wilson getting him the football. Like if you know, Zach Wilson
Yeah.
seems competent enough to throw it to one guy, right? At least that's what people seem to think. So
Listen, A-Rod's back. Back being the offensive coordinator. This is the other game where I love to play Zach Wilson skinny or a Zach Wilson double with the Jets defense. Like I'm totally okay with that. Like
interesting.
I think that this could be a spot. The Jets gained a lot of confidence last week, and I think Zach can cook, and I think Alan Lazard is the key to that. I know people say he's just a guy, he's a jag, blah blah blah,
He
but
is.
he's A-Rod's boy. He's big. The Denver Broncos secondary is brutal outside of Surtain. Their whole defense is brutal outside of Surtain. And 3,900. Let's
Yeah,
go.
he's a
But
fine
I
price
do
target.
not mind playing the defense with some Jets guys and not even bringing the Broncos back.
Yeah, Javante will work out. Yeah, I mean, like I'm just not. I don't think there's enough ceiling here against a good Jets defense to be interested in a 2 or 3 man backfield for Denver. Like I hope he's in and that they just like split all the work and I don't have to care about any of it. I like Jerry Jeudy avoiding the Sauce Gardner matchup. Yeah, I like Zach Wilson. If he's only 2%, I'm showing like optimal is closer to 5 or 6%. I don't know if I'm going to play the doubles, but I think, Zach Wilson to Wilson squared is fine. Brees Hall, I think, is fine on those teams too, or without. So yeah, and I don't know, maybe Conklin only with Zach, but I like both defenses here too. Even though I'm more on the Jets win team, the Broncos are not a bad play at defense either. Nor are the Jets.
Yeah. Fine with that.
And last but not least, Kansas City, Minnesota, 52.5 total. Kansas City, 3.5-point favorites here. Mahomes, Kelsey are owned. Justin Jefferson, this is one where you just like, I guess I trust that he's going to be chalky, but nobody's really talking about him. Like, it's hard to get all the way up there.
Yeah, it's very difficult. Yeah. So this is the third game. So I have 3 games where I really like to play a quarterback, a pass catcher, and a defense on the same team and just fuck the other team. Like I'm playing a lot of Mahomes, Kelsey, Chiefs defense.
I think Chiefs defense is a pretty reasonable call, especially in like
there is a world, and I know I said this last year, and I know I said it maybe against the Bears. When Justin Jefferson gets this 9,400 plus range, there's a world where he goes out and just does Justin Jefferson things and puts up a 30 burger, and you don't show up near the top of your contests. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
that can happen. So I would rather just say, look, Kirk Cousins, real life Kirk Cousins football, real life has been bad this year. His team has been kind of pissed. Minnesota is a dumpster fire. They're as bad as the Bears. Look at the Bears versus the Chiefs. Now, obviously, they have more competent offense in general, but
yeah,
this could get away. And I don't know. I'm fine not bringing a Minnesota Viking back, especially because it's easy leverage.
Yeah, I think that's a sharp call to say. Like, in a lot of the sim stuff that I'm running, like a lot of them don't have Viking bringbacks, and if they do, like sometimes it's like Kelsey with Hawkinson.
Yeah.
because like the Chiefs can score 30 plus with the Vikings not having to push them at all, or the Vikings are split, or
Right.
like Justin Jefferson gets 25, but Tyreek gets 30. I think is like all very very viable. So
Yeah.
actually, you're talking me into I think like one sharp way to play this it would be like Mahomes Kelsey with Tyreek, and then you just say Tyreek outscores Justin Jefferson, and like boom, and you have a little bit of differentiation against a fairly chalky environment. Do you like anything? Like, can I talk you into Jordan Addison? I think he's coming off an air ball.
Yeah, I think that's fine. I think Jordan Addison definitely fits the Chiefs give them a beating, and
Yeah,
he
I think
gets
he's gonna.
loose in a softer coverage while they're down points, kind of a thing, or has a big yak play or something.
Yeah,
It's fine. It's fine. I've kind of sold myself on this whole Minnesota's real bad and Kirk Cousins getting sacked 10 times thing that
yeah.
I'm just kind of letting it all go
Are you into
on
either
the
running back?
Minnesota side.
Either running back?
Oh, I should have mentioned that Pacheco is totally fine in the mid range. In
Yeah,
those lineups where you're not doing the Patrick Mahomes, Kelsey, thing, you could also do Pacheco with his defense thing too. I think
yeah,
that's totally fine.
yeah. Like he's just a little bit cheaper than most of those cash guys that everyone's playing, but I think his
Yeah.
median and even ceiling are like not that far behind. Plus, you get a little bit of
Yeah.
leverage there. So,
Yeah. And the other thing I want
depending
to
how you
mention
want to
about
talk about.
Mahomes v. Hurts is Mahomes sneaky, and we've said this every year, but sneaky rushing yards. Like he's
For
getting
sure.
loose
Yeah,
and
you can
getting
get
into
there.
the field. And so, yeah, I'm really strong on Mahomes over Hurts as well.
Yeah. All right, Ori, give the people what they want. Who are you gonna
Well,
fuck around and find
I
out?
don't know that it's what they want, but I am gonna fuck around and find out and play Alan Lazard. That's my FAFO. He's definitely scoring a
Jesus
touchdown this
Christ,
week
dude.
at 3,900. I am
Jesus.
gonna only play him with Zach Wilson probably, but
Okay.
yeah, it's Alan Lazard week. And then I've already given my lock of uh Swift, which
Okay.
I don't know if that's FAFO, but he's in every one of my lineups, and that's just that.
I would have started with DeAndre Swift instead of Alan Lazard. I actually like the pass. I like this passing game, man. I really like playing it with Hurts, and I kind of like Goddard to get off. Give you some upside at tight end, get off the cheap guys with no upside. So give me like a Hurts, Goddard. I'm fine with AJ Brown, and I like bringing it back with Cooper Cup, man. Like I think that Cooper
Oof.
Cup at 8,600, it's such a bad price, like given the uncertainty, but he's just one
Brother,
of
you're
those
gonna
guys
be
that
in the couch
you want to
cushions. You're gonna be in the couch cushions looking for some coin. Woo.
Yeah, that's fine. I
That's
can play those
expensive
blind
what you
guys.
just
Yeah,
said.
I'll get there. No, that's fine. I'll find my way there. So yeah, that's probably like in my single entries. I'll go there, and then it's been 4 weeks of losing money with Daniel Jones and crew, and like what's another? So my second would definitely be Daniel Jones with Darren Waller, Wandale, Tyreek, and Devin Achan or Mostert, but probably Achan.
I'll say it
There.
one last time as we sign off. This week, I think the edge is for me. What I'm looking for is structure. I really like these spots with quarterback, pass catcher, defense, and don't bring the other side back. Other people are not going to do the bring back, but they're not going to do the defense thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, defense you
So
get like a lot
I
of
think
short
it's
fields and
interesting.
stuff. Guys pin their ears back, rush the passer. All right. Good luck. This week we'll be back next week. Good luck to Buffalo losing 11-0 in London against Jacksonville. And congrats once again to the 1-3 Chicago Bears.
Right? Let's get a win
Yeah.
for the Giants.
All right. Yeah. See ya.
Bye bye.